Am I going to get cancelled? These are the secrets pro photographers don't want you to know. So much so that I've taken on a sponsor for this video who are Imagine, and they're an AI editing tool. Now, the reason I've taken on the sponsor for this video is one, because I actually use the stuff and it's quite good. But two, I'm not giving this away for free because this information is quite good. So let's dive in. Let's go for these things. Give me the hate in the comments, but, you know, let's see if we get cancelled. Number one, you kind of need an agent to be successful in photography as a commercial photographer if success to you is shooting big ad campaigns. A lot of caveats there. If you want to make a lot of money, you don't need an agent necessarily. But if you want to shoot for Nike, Adidas, Gucci, Coca-Cola, having an agent is going to really give you the upper hand there. A couple of reasons for it. One, having an agent means you're in the top 0.1% of photographers in the UK. Other places it's even worse because London, New York and Paris are where the majority of big shoots occur. So anything outside of there, it kind of like drops down and down and down. The chances are even less. But having a London agent or New York agent really is the stamp of approval you need as a photographer for ad agencies to go, yeah, that they're probably all right at this. And the bit you don't want to hear is to get an agent in London or New York, you're probably going to have to move. I managed it living in Leicester, which is 1 hour away from London, and my God, was it hard. Did I have to work for it? Like, if I was young and I was single, I'd have moved to London. But I wasn't, and I'm not, but I made it work. Wouldn't advise it though. Number two, art buyers. You've never heard of them. You need to. Art buyers are the people in ad agencies who choose the photographer or the artist. They buy the art in. They liaise with the creative directors. Art buyers are your friends. You need to have art buyers that like your work. If art buyers don't think your work is good, one, it's probably not, and two, you're definitely not getting booked for a big campaign. Number three. Now, first caveat is these people gave me the software for free this year, but I've bought it every other year. The only reason they gave it to me for free is because so many people said, yes, I'm going to buy it. And I heard about it from Scott because nobody knows about it, because we're not supposed to tell people about it. Because if you know about it, you've got the same information that I've got. It levels the playing field a bit. I have problems with this ethically. I don't want you stealing my work, but at the same time, I don't believe in gatekeeping. These are two opposing views, so this bit may or may not be in the video. It's in. If you've seen this bit, it's in. Bikini lists. Bikini lists if you're in the UK, not if you're outside of the UK. If you're outside of the UK, you might need Wonderful Machine or something like that. But Bikini lists is a database that photographers buy. It lets you do a couple of things. One is it lets send a newsletter out to every creative director, and you can choose art buyers and producers and all the rest of it, and you can choose the particular area they work in. And two, and more useful, you can choose the dream client of yours. It will show you which ad agency is working on it, give you all of their email addresses, telephone numbers, and their LinkedIn profiles for each person with their job title in that place. This could backfire, but this is how I do my marketing. So if you've ever done my Marketing Monday workshop, you will know this already. I'm not going to tell you how I use it because that's what the workshop's for, but this is the tool we use. It's expensive, it is pricey, it is worth it. I should caveat that, it's worth it if your work is good. Now let's have a little bit of a message about the sponsor, and then let's dive into some really dark stuff. So this is today's sponsor, Imagine. Imagine is a AI profile creator, and bear with me here because this will make sense in a moment, that works alongside Lightroom. And the reason I'm going to be using this is because of behind the scenes shots. As you know, I hate presets because presets don't work, because as soon as you change the angle, the light, anything, you have to adjust every single one. And everyone's like, yeah, it gets you in the ballpark, but I'm just like, but it's easier, I find, to edit from scratch than it is to correct a preset gone wrong. So I edit from scratch. Now, this is where AI is coming in, and this is where we're sort of going to see some really big changes in the way that we're able to work. Because this here, it works inside and alongside Lightroom. Once you've put in around 3,000 photos to this, it works out how you like to edit them. It will then learn your editing, and it will edit each image separately. Now, because of this, instead of having to go into, say, shooting a wedding and you've got 2,000 photos to go through from a 3-day wedding, instead of having to go through each of these images and adjust and tweak them, straighten them, crop them, all the rest of it, it will do it all for you by learning it. Now, of course, you're going to want to approve them all anyway, but this way it saves you so much time. Alongside this, it will also mask out every subject. So if you need to go into the future editing, by the time you come back to it, every subject's been masked already. The image culling is available for free, and it's simple. And because it integrates with Lightroom, which for anybody who shoots in bulk is the go-to software. Yes, I use Capture One, but I shoot one image a day. If you're shooting weddings, you don't use Capture One. You jump into Lightroom. It is the one for that type of work. High volume shooting. Lightroom's kind of your friend there. And this will just really speed that whole process up. As you can see in here, they've already got some ready to go. And if I was going to go for my behind the scenes stuff, I like some nice black and white. So I'm going to use this one. And I think we'll go for events as the main thing. And now we have to choose the Lightroom Classic Catalog and add it to there. So let's do that now. I'm going to upload. And now it's doing the magic. Okay, so now I'm going to download for review. Just check where they're going to. So now if we open up that Lightroom Catalog, you see what it's done here to every single image to give it a cohesive look. Now, I know that all of these were shot under completely different lighting scenarios. This shot here and this shot here should not be. During this shot here, we'd got video lights on and window lights, so it's mixed lighting. I would say it's a pretty cohesive look considering how changeable the lighting was, and the exposures were quite all over the shop as well because of that. But we've got that really nice punchy look. Oh, it's not quite finished loading into all of them, but I'm pretty pleased with that. I'd say that that's a good little fix.
A lot of photography is who you know. Now, I say this from a place of no nepotism whatsoever. Dad worked in a factory, mum did night shifts doing Meals on Wheels. Like, who you know is very important. Anybody can get to know these people, but you have to go to the events. You have to go to the networking thing. All of these things, you have to put yourself in it. If you don't turn up to networking events, if you don't know who the people are hosting them, you need to get stalking on LinkedIn. You need to start to find these people. There's cool little WhatsApp groups. There's all these little things in there. It's very cliquey. It's very gatekeepery, but anyone can get in once they find it. You've just got to put that time in to find where these things are in your area. Even in Leicester, there's a thing called Creative Coffee. I'm not sure it's particularly good, but there's a thing there where creatives go to meet. And that's where you need to be. If you don't network, you don't get jobs. It is about who you know, but it's not about who you know in the way that people who aren't successful say it is like, oh, well, my family doesn't know anybody important or rich. That's not what it's about. It's about getting yourself out there. And the other big secret pros don't want to tell you about is how much we work. It is insane week to week, month to month, year to year. We have to look at our income on an annual basis because you sit there for 6 weeks and you don't do a single shoot. You then do 4 shoots in 5 days and think you're going to die from fatigue. You then have 3 months of doing nothing. You then get 1 job for next to nothing, and you get a job which pays you 3 times more than you've earned in the last 5 years combined. The income is all over the place. There's no consistency. There's no levelness to it. And what we have to do is be really sensible with our money, which is very difficult because we're creative. We have to take our money, put it in the bank, and pay ourselves the amount of money each month that we need to live on. Nobody likes to talk about this. Everyone likes to talk about the big jobs and the big numbers, when really, those big jobs and big numbers are cool, but they might be carrying you for a very long time. Doing a 100 grand shoot once a month is great. But maybe that money's got to last you for the next decade when your work's no longer in fashion, when you're no longer the photographer of the minute. You have points where you're hot and you definitely have points where you're not. I've just gone through a not point and I'm going into a hot point, it would seem. I did more work in the last month than I did in the last 6 months combined. So it's really all up and down. And whenever you think it's going really well and it's going to be like this forever, that's when it changes. And not always for the worse, sometimes for the better. It's either like, oh, we've got a good flow going on here, and then suddenly you get so much work you can't cope, and you've got loads of freelance staff everywhere, and it's chaos. Or you're thinking this is nice and comfortable, and then all of a sudden, all the work stops. And since COVID, the industry has been very much like that. It has been all over the place. We have so many estimates coming in where the jobs just get cancelled last minute. We've been given purchase order numbers on a Friday and then a Monday morning phone call being phoned up saying the job's off, the whole thing's cancelled. They're not doing any advertising at the moment. And that's because of the fear in the economy. And it's just a really hard time at the moment. So anyone struggling, don't worry too much. We're all finding it difficult. It's up and it's down and it's all over the place. You think you're the king of the world one day, and the next day you're kind of thinking, oh, I'm going to have to get a 9-to-5 job. But thankfully, we're all sensible with our money, aren't we? So we keep it stashed away so we can keep paying ourselves a salary because we're a business as well as a creative. And the big thing, the last thing, and this is probably something we don't even want to admit to ourselves, but camera kit doesn't matter. We rent it all on every job anyway. The reason we don't all own the latest and greatest stuff is because if we need it, we rent it and the client pays the bill. That's how it works. That's why camera brands don't endorse professional photographers. They endorse professional personalities. If they actually came to commercial photographers and said, will you use this kit? We'd be like, yeah, sure. But it's no better than what I currently have unless you happen to be Hasselblad or Phase 1. So that's kind of where that sits. If you're ever wondering why some pro cameras have like cameras held together with gaff tape, it's because the image quality doesn't change. We're not going to spend our hard-earned cash on new cameras because that's pointless, and we just rent the good stuff when we need it. Like most of us don't own Hasselblads and Broncolor kit in the studio. We just rent it on a day-by-day basis. We need it for a big job and pass that fee on. Anyone in the comments who's going, yes, but if you buy it, you can rent it to yourself. Do the maths. If you buy a £100,000 camera, you don't just have to make £100,000, you'd have to make 300,000? No. Yes, you'd have to make, if you buy a £100,000 camera to keep yourself within the margins of a company running, you'd have to make £300,000, assuming that camera was your only overhead. And it's not, because you have everything else to go for. If you put the camera into the percentage of your overhead, you'd actually have to make, you need to be making over $1 million a year to justify having something like that. Now, people justify things in their own ways, but if you look at it from a purely business point of view and follow something like the profit first, I'm sure my maths is wrong, but you can do it yourselves, you'll realize, and I know this because I worked it out myself ages ago, I was like, well, maybe I should just buy a Phase 1, it'll work out cheaper in the long run. It doesn't. No amount of tax deductible depreciation counts for how often we use it. So there we go. That's why we rent the stuff. It just doesn't make sense to buy it. But rental houses do because they rent it every day. I'm meandering. I'm going to go. Bye-bye.